Welcome to Roll, Ponder, and Play, a podcast dedicated to crafting stories through the application of role-playing game engines, combined with creative thinking and propelled into the ether by the barest of prompts. I'm Eilwen As, taking on all the roles of game master, solo player, author, and narrator. Come with me on a journey, and together let us explore realms of shadow, danger, and wonder. One role can decide the fate of many things. Welcome to episode 18 of the Queen of Shadows podcast on Roll, Ponder, and Play. I'm Eilwen As, your friendly neighborhood game master, solo player, author, and narrator. In our previous episode, Eilwen stumbles in a numb trance after witnessing Kyffin's horrific death at the hands of a monstrous creature wrought by Edris. She follows Aron for long hours as they walk in the darkness, hoping to put distance between the foul creature that had consumed Kyffin alive. In their subterranean wanderings, they come to a section where the thoroughfare is nearly completely blocked by fallen rubble, save for some small crawl spaces on top of the rubble heap, or possibly through the rubble heap. They camp for the night, and on the next day, Eilwen confronts Aron's actions in forcing her to not save Kyffin. Their bond is tested. They talk about the morality of a queen and letting good people die if it's in the best interest of the kingdom. Eilwen ponders on whether she could let Aron die if he had been in Kyffin's spot. They resume their journey and try to climb over the pile of stones. Eilwen nearly makes it over when carrion crawlers assault her and Aron. She falls off the rubble heap, hits her head, and momentarily loses consciousness. When she regains her senses, Aron is standing over her, protecting her, fighting a score of the wriggling gray creatures. His flesh is cut and torn in half a dozen places. She joins the fight, and together they defeat the creatures. As she tends to both their wounds, she ponders, what if she had awakened with Aron consumed by the crawlers, and she had been left to wander these dark roads alone? As we begin this episode, Eilwen's stats are Edge 2, Heart 1, Iron 1, Shadow 3, Wits 2. Current assets: Archer, initial box; Cutthroat, initial box; Shadow Walk, initial box; Duelist, initial box. Current statuses: Supply 5 out of 5, Spirit 0 out of 5, Health 4 out of 5, Momentum 4 out of 10. Current debilities: Shaken. Current unspent XP 0. And now, on to episode 18 of Queen of Shadows. The bandage affixed, Aron murmured his thanks to his sister, and they considered their options. They didn't see any more of the terrible creatures with their quivering maggot-white eyes, their gray wrinkled skin, their flesh-tearing incisors. But it was still dangerous to climb the shifting pile of rock. There might be another way, but this thoroughfare at least seemed to cut through the mountain. If they could just get over the massive pile of rock to the other side. They put their heads together and studied the pile of rock. Okay, this is Secure an Advantage. We're rolling plus wits. I roll a 4 on the action dice, plus 2 for Eilwen's wits is a 6 against 1 on the challenge dice, and 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. Your advantage is short-lived. Take plus 1 momentum. Momentum is now 5 out of 10. That part there, Eilwen said, where those larger rocks are, that should be more stable. Fine, Aron muttered. Try it one more time, but if you fall and insist on breaking your head open again, we're turning back and going a different way. Deal, she smiled. And once again she began to climb over the obstacle. Okay, this is a face danger roll. I roll a 4 on the action dice plus 2 for her edge is a 6 against a 6 and a 4 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. So we succeed but face a troublesome cost. I'll choose that she is tired or hurt. Her health is now 3 out of 5. Narratively, it's like climbing up and down a cliff, and that would of course involve a lot of muscle power. Her arms strained and shoulders burned as she pulled herself up to another ledge of rock, and she rolled onto her side panting. Just one more stretch to the top. She looked over, down below at Aron, in his small pool of orange light. Her arms were trembling as she finally reached the top, where it looked like she could squeeze through some larger openings in the rubble. She lowered the rope for Aron, and then she helped him up. They sat there together, breathing hard side by side. "Come on," Aron said, helping her stand, and they squeezed through some larger openings at the top, where above they could see some patches of gray sky and felt flurries of snowflakes on their faces before they carefully climbed down the other side of the huge rock heap, back into gloom and darkness. Tired from the fight and the ordeal, but anxious to be through with these mountains, they pressed on, placing one weary step after another for the rest of the day. Okay, this is another Delve the Depths. We roll a 3 on the action dice, plus 2 for her wits, for 5. Against a 4 and a 3 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. I also rolled a 10 on the features, which says strange environmental disturbances. But the strong hit, yay, that's good. They make progress. The progress on this delve is now 5 out of 10. Hours later, they came to an underground dribble of water that cut through the rock above them and dripped across the underground road. The water formed a glistening pool of blue, mystical light that lit up the immediate area. "What is this?" Aron frowned at the strangeness. "Water of the gods?" Eiwen said, studying the pool of light that shimmered with a light of its own. "I thought you didn't believe in the gods," Aron said. "I believe in the gods. I just believe they don't care about us," she said. He grunted. "Water of the gods. I don't think they need water. Did that Edris creature cause this?" She shrugged and reached out to touch it. "Eilwen!" "What? It's not harmful," she said. "The rock is perfectly fine." "You're not a rock." "You worry too much," she said, and tentatively touched the water with the end of her pinky. It felt warm on her skin, and then it faded and disappeared. Feeling nothing ill, she placed her hand under the dribble of water. The same warmth on her skin, and under her skin, she saw the water dribble out of the other side of her hand. There was some resistance as it passed through her flesh, but very little. "Did you see that?" She had a hard time keeping the awe from her voice. "Yes," Aron muttered, making a warning sign against evil. Eiwen examined her hand in the strange blue light. She clenched her fist and extended her fingers, examining her hand on both sides. No ill effects. She felt a warm tingling sensation on her hand, but after a while it faded. "Strange," she said, fascinated at the liquid light that faded into and through her hand to pool on the rock below. Physical objects seem to interact with this strange liquid, but perhaps living beings cannot. At least it's not harmful." "That you know of," Aron said. "We should keep moving. I don't like this place." "A moment longer." Does Eilwen find a room with any flask or some such thing with a stopper? I'll say a 50-50 chance. The oracle on a roll of a 2 says no. Eilwen looked about for any rooms with any kind of container, such as a flask, but couldn't find any. She wasn't willing to pour the water out of her water skin for it, but she drew out Toothbite from its sheath and let the glowing water dribble over it. Does it continue to glow when the water runs off of it? I think there's a 50-50 chance. And on a 9, the oracle agrees with a yes. Does it seem to last? Again, 50-50 chance. And the oracle says yes. The sword glowed a faint blue, even when the water dried. She rubbed her finger along the flat of Toothbite. She felt no wetness, and no matter how hard she rubbed, the light remained affixed to the dark metal. She smiled at Aron and held up the notched iron blade. It glowed with a faint blue light. Not bright, but enough to see by. What do you think? Will Aron dip his axe in it? I think, given his superstitious nature, that is unlikely, and the oracle agrees with the 2. No. It's unnatural. I'll take no part in it. He stepped around the pool, giving it a wide berth. We should keep moving. He strode off into the darkness, an orange pool of yellow from the torch he held in his offhand flickering. Eilwen sighed, gave one last look at the pool, and followed after him. Well, I think that certainly fulfills my envisioned find an opportunity. She essentially just put light on her sword. I'm not sure how long that will last. Probably on an appropriate match on a miss, maybe? Maybe something like that. We'll see what the oracle says about that later when the time comes. For now, we'll continue our delve. Delve the depths plus wits of 2 plus 1 from the previous strong hit is a modifier of +3 and an action dice of 2 for a 5. Total against a 6 and a 5 for a miss. For feature, I rolled 21, crumbling corridors and chambers. On a miss, envision a danger or roll. Well, I rolled an 86. A resource is diminished, broken, or lost. For a few more hours, they walked, and the main road continued underground in a straight course. Off to the sides, they saw some crumbling corridors and chambers that disappeared into the inky darkness. They slept in one of the crumbling chambers. Staircases ran up and down. Perhaps this had been some kind of home. She saw some small stone figurines on a shelf, perhaps the height of her palm, intricately carved, of a tall man and a woman with a flowing dress, with palms upraised to the sky, as if in some kind of greeting to each other. She put them in her pack, and as she did so, she noticed her egg had a hole in it, and a slender black neck emerged from the smooth surface. Shell littered the inside of her pack. Excited, she lifted out the egg and set it on the stone table in the small domicile, and watched the baby wyvern slowly hatch, clawing its way out of its shell. It was small, perhaps the size of a small dog. "Aron," she called, awe rich in her voice. "Come and see." "I tell you, no good will come of this," Aron said with a frown, folding his arms as they sat near their packs and watched the slender creature. She ignored him and brought out some of their dried meat wrapped in a cloth. She chewed some up, moistening it, and then fed it to the creature. The lithe newborn wyvern moved with lightning speed and snatched it from her hands. Its dark eyes looked up at hers, and it tilted its head, watching her face with an intelligent curiosity. Its small wings beat slowly, stretching away from its body. She tilted her own head in turn, mimicking it. It opened its mouth and let out a small cawing sound. She brought out more meat. It tried to snap at her fingers, hissing, and she yelped and fell backwards onto her rump, falling off of the stone bench that had begun to crumble with age. Aron laughed. Ah, sister, you are sometimes so naive. But she was too intrigued to pay Aron much heed. She went back to the table and continued to interact with the creature. It snapped at her hand some more, but she flicked its small head with her forefinger. It hissed back at her and then withdrew, its eyes wide. She fed it some more mushed meat, pinching it into a ball and rolling it across the table. It stumbled a little at first, but then darted and lunged, gulping down the meat. "You're a fast one, aren't you?" she said with affection. "What will you do when it runs off?" Aron asked. "It won't run off," she said, still playing with it. "It knows me. It needs me." "You think you're its mother, don't you?" He scoffed and gave a mocking shake of his head. "Are you going to think that when it rips your heart out of your chest?" "You have no vision, brother," she said, and tapped the creature's head fondly. It was learning, and quickly. It hadn't tried to snap at her finger again, at least not yet. In fact, it leaned its small head into her finger, like a domesticated cat would. She had been around animals all her life, and had trained a falcon before it took sick and died. Perhaps this was not so dissimilar? She could do this. "At least I have common sense," Aron said. He shook his head and pulled his fur-lined cloak about himself, laying down on a stone bed and yawning, his pack under his head for a pillow. "Save some of the food for us, okay?" She ushered the wyvern back into her pack, where it nestled into some clothes. After giving a big yawn of its own, its mouth full of small, sharp teeth, it gave her one last look, and then closed its lidded eyes, hissing lightly in sleep. She moved the food supplies to Aron's pack, and then also pulled her cloak up and huddled next to her own pack. And all three of them fell asleep. I'm going to say this is a milestone in her iron vow to train a wyvern. Progress is now 2 out of 10. Of course, she can't actually take it as an asset until she pays for it with experience points. And their supply goes down by 1 for feeding it. Supply is now 4 out of 5. This was the result of the previous delve miss, which said, "A resource is diminished, broken, or lost." Okay, this is a make camp move. With a 5 on the action dice, plus 4 for their supply is a 9 against a 3 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. She will take plus 1 health. Her health now increases to 4 out of 5. And focus, plus 1 momentum. Momentum is now 6 out of 10. She slept well, and both she and Aron felt much better. The baby wyvern was mewing like a kitten for food when they awakened, scratching around in the pack. She shared some more of her food with the small winged lizard, and then they continued their journey through the darker-than-night crumbling cityscape. Okay, this is Delve the Depths plus Wits again for using Observation, Intuition, and Expertise. That's 4 on the action dice plus 2 for the Wits is a 6 against a 3 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. Rolling 22 for features, crumbling corridors, and chambers. And rolling on the Wits column, I rolled a 54, and we make progress. Well, that's good, at least nothing bad happened. Our progress on our delve is now 6 out of 10. All around them lay the remains of a stone city lost to time and the twisting heart of darkness. She wondered if Edris had caused this destruction. Who knew? Half-crumbling halls shed rocks like old skin. Rooms lay thick with dust and bones of the fallen. More humanoids like the one they had seen on the surface, each with an intricate wooden mask on their faces. These must have died hundreds of years ago, she reasoned. No way to know how they died, though. There was no flesh on the bodies to examine. They pressed on in their journey. Okay, this is Delve the Depths again. I rolled a 2 on the action dice, plus 2 for wits is a 4, against a 7 and an 8 on the challenge dice for a miss. It was bound to happen. I will roll on the features, and I get a 12. Blight or decay. The crumbling stone grew worse, the ever-thinning thoroughfare narrowed further, and the darkness grew palpable. They saw bones and rock litter the corridor in front of them, the remains of the fallen. The skeletons were in twisted, jarring positions, arms bent around legs, legs curved around necks, arm bones thrust through eye sockets, teeth gnawing on femurs that jutted out of the backside of skulls. By all the gods, Aron swore. What happened here? She wondered. Death and madness, Aron muttered. He kept his gaze fixed ahead, kicking aside bones as he walked. Come on. Eilwen stepped gingerly over them, trying not to touch the bones. Death and madness indeed. An unpleasant smell began to awaken in her nostrils, and at the back of her mouth a familiar, sickening, cloying smell, like rotting flesh. Smell that? Aron asked, his torch raised in front of him, in his left hand, his right covering his nose. She nodded. Smells like death, he said. The corridor seemed to close in around them, dark and oppressive, and they smelled a hint of decay that grew darker and filthier with each step. Soon the walls grew closer together, as filmy half-spheres bulged outwards from the walls and ceiling, appearing as mottled pustules about to burst. They pulsed slightly, as if with a diseased life of their own. Eilwen brought her own leather glove up to her mouth to cover the scent. She made out her sword. It glowed faintly in the dark. Whatever these growths were emitting made her gag, and she nearly retched at the smell of rotting flesh. She breathed through her mouth. An improvement, but only barely. Inside her pack, her little wyvern hissed and scratched, perhaps in dismay, anger, or revulsion. Quiet, she coughed, and tapped the side of her pack, and the little creature stopped moving. What is it? Aron scrunched his nose, and he held in a retch. Is it alive? I don't know, but try not to touch it, whatever it is, she said. It might have caused what's happening to them. She nodded to the twisted skeletons behind them. Moving past these filmy sacks wouldn't be easy, though, as the strange sack-like growths pulsed and expanded as if alive. Beyond this spot, the corridor up ahead seemed to be clear of them. She studied the expanding and contracting motion carefully for several long minutes, trying to detect a pattern. Okay, this is secure an advantage with wits. With a 2 on the action dice plus 2 for wits, we get a 4 against a 2 and a 7 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. That's plus 1 momentum, now 7 out of 10, and the advantage is short-lived. If they crouched and moved carefully, with the right timing, they should be able to avoid them. It seemed regular enough. But if she watched long enough, she started to see small variations, which threw off her calculations. Better to move now while the pattern seemed fresh. It's a pattern, see? I'll go first, Eilwen said. And then she moved, timing her steps, crouching, watching, studying the pustules, and then moving again, acting with timing and intuition. Aron followed after her, torch in his right hand, shield in his left. This is face danger plus wits. And I get a 4 on the action dice plus 2 for her wits is a 6. against a 5 and a 9 on the challenge dice for a weak hit. She made it, timing it perfectly. Aron tripped halfway through and a bundle of torches and some food spilled out of his pack when he dove under a growth that expanded downwards from the ceiling like some huge pustule-ridden lung. Aron gagged and picked himself up, then he crouched and timed his dash, charging to safety as the sacks expanded outward in the fetid air. Okay, so this is -1 supplies for the troubling cost. Supplies are now down to 3 out of 5. Leave them, Eilwen said. Aron nodded, neither of them desiring to go back for the dropped bundle of torches and the lost food. He retied his pack and they moved on, continuing down the road. Okay, this is Delve the Depths again, and I roll a 5 on the action dice plus 2 for the wits is 7 against a 4 and a 4 on the challenge dice for a strong hit and a twist. For the positive twist, I think I'll just say they make extra progress, and so they are now at 8 out of 10 on this delve, and they find an opportunity. I'm going to roll on the find an opportunity move, and I get a 16. The terrain favors you, or you find a hidden path. After 2 more torches had burned out, and her legs felt like jelly from the long, tiresome hike through the decaying subterranean thoroughfare, they passed by a cross passage that branched off the main road. The air felt fresher, and the path sloped downwards and was free of rubble. "Let's go this way," she said, and they set off down the smaller passage. After a few minutes, they made good progress, and she thought perhaps she saw a pinprick of gray light in the distance. Or maybe it was just her eyes playing tricks on her. She wanted to run to the exit, to be done with these dark halls, but she held back, cautious. "Let's be careful, brother," she said. "What if one of his creatures guards an exit to these depths?" He nodded, and they moved forward silently, Aron following after his sister. Okay, this is Delve the Depths, and she's going to use Shadow this time. She has a Shadow of 3, so I rolled a 1 on the action dice. That's not good. Plus 3 is a 4, against an 8 and an 8. No. A low roll, and it's a miss, and a bad match on 8s. Not good. Okay, well, does her sword's light go out? I think there's probably a 50-50 chance of that, but the Oracle says no. Well, good. Small mercies at least. Is the danger/twist for the negative match on this miss the creature, the very same one that killed Kyffin? I think that's somewhat likely, and the Oracle says yes, and... Okay, the Oracle really wants us to die. Great. I'll say it's actively hunting then, and that the "and" also means it's on alert. They cautiously moved down the passageway. It was the tunnel exit. They could see daylight. On, to be sure, but daylight nonetheless. And after seeing pitch darkness beyond the range of their torch for the last... how many days? She had lost count. The light pulled at them, beckoning its illusory freedom. Aron stumbled and his shield smacked the rock wall with a dull cracking sound. Eilwen held up her hand and Aron stopped behind her. She heard a familiar tapping sound of many claws on rock and felt her mouth go dry, her pulse quicken. Something very large was coming nearer. It scuttled in front of the passageway exit, backlit by the light, but its dim shape blocked the light of the exit for a moment, and its outline revealed writhing tentacles, long beetle-like carapace, and 100 darting spears for legs. Then they heard a growl. A dog or a wolf? The insect-like aberration wasn't aware of them yet, but she saw a flurry of movement on its many legs, and then a mass of shadowy, flowing tentacles lashed out and pierced something in the passageway. The poor canine whined and yelped and howled, giving almost an animal scream. Then the death scream ended. and the awful tearing sound of flesh began, followed by the sickening sucking or slurping, and the smell of burning hair and flesh. And that sound, the same fate that befell Kyffin. In the dimness they saw the ends of the tentacles glow, as if each had an embedded hot coal. Eilwen gaped and backpedaled up the incline, bumping into Aron. Eilwen swallowed her fear and felt the hard rock against her back. But her heart felt like it was running away, pounding across the ice flats of the great north, eager to burst forth from her chest. It's distracted, she whispered to Aron. Feeding. This is our best chance to get past it. Does Aron agree? I think it's somewhat likely, but on a 3, the oracle says no. Does he want to fight it? I think that's somewhat unlikely. And on a 3, the oracle says no. No, he whispered. We can't get past it. Its bulk fills up nearly the entire passageway. We can't fight it, she said. I know. We'll need to drop back to the larger underground road, then get around it, and then come back this way, Aron said. It moves fast, Eilwen said. What's to stop it from catching us? Once it's in the main thoroughfare, we can move past it quietly. There's enough rubble there, fallen pillars, crumbling homes, plenty of space to get around it. We can hopefully make it think we went a different way. If it spots us, there's no outrunning it, Eilwen said. You saw how fast it caught up to Kyffin. You're right, he frowned. Trying to outrun it or to fight it both sound like bad ideas. It sounds like they're planning, so I'm going to do a secure and advantage move plus wits. I roll 5 on the action dice, plus 2 for Eilwen's wits is a 7, against a 3 and a 5 on the challenge dice for an 8. That is a strong hit. She will take 2 momentum, now a 9 out of 10, and that is a pretty good buffer for something like this. Unless it all goes pear-shaped with double 9s, we know how much the dice love to give us those double 9s. They moved back to the wide, crumbling underground road. And there they hid behind some large stone blocks that stretched across the road. The base of a tower lay to their right, as if the upper half had been kicked down the subterranean expanse. Windows and doors, like empty eyes of a skull, stared at them. Eilwen then gave out a perfect imitation of a wolf howl. While they waited, she started to chant the words to bring the veil of shadow down upon them, tracing the symbols with her forefinger. They would need their aid. Okay, here is Shadow Walk again. When you cloak yourself with the gossamer veil of the Shadow Realms, roll plus Shadow. On a strong hit, take plus 1 momentum, then reroll any dice, 1 time only, when you make a move by ambushing, hiding, or sneaking. On a weak hit, as above. But the shadows try to lead you astray. You must first face danger to find your way. Okay, roll plus shadow. She rolls a 3 on the action dice, plus 3 for her shadow is a 6. Against a 3 and a 1 on the challenge dice for a strong hit. That is lucky. And her momentum is now 10 out of 10. Nice. Eilwen chanted under her breath, and Aron gasped as shadows descended from the ceiling. Gossamer strands of them wrapping around her, soon making her look like a shadow herself, a mere pool of darkness. Eilwen? His voice sounded strained. They heard the rush of clicking sounds, spears on stone growing louder. The creature scuttled into view. I am here, she whispered in his ear. It is time. Now. Aron chucked a large rock as far as he could down the road away from them. It cracked against a far wall, and 100 clicking legs tore off of it, scuttling on savage angular limbs, undulating over rock. Now, she whispered, keep low and move quietly. Okay, this is face danger, and we're going to roll plus shadow, plus 1 from her success just now on the Shadow Walk ritual. That gives us a plus 4 modifier, and we roll a 4 on the action dice for an 8, compared with a 10 and a 1. on the challenge dice for a weak hit. Per the Shadow Walk ritual, I can reroll any dice once. Well, I will reroll that d10 that has a 10 value and see if we can get something lower. And I rolled a 4. That turns this into a strong hit. She already has 10 out of 10 momentum, so that can't increase any higher. But the main thing is that they avoid facing this thing altogether. They moved stealthily to the side passage, the shadows blurring her form and masking her footfalls. Aron followed closely behind, and the strange creature eventually proceeded further down the main thoroughfare. After some time, the pinprick of light grew larger and larger and larger, until they emerged into the gray, snowy wilderness of the Veiled Mountains. Thank you for joining us, and I sincerely hope you enjoyed what you experienced. If you would like to support Roll, Ponder, and Play, you can do so in a number of ways. You can give the show a positive review on your podcatcher of choice. You can share the show with your friends and family and on your socials. Nothing beats word of mouth as a way to bring in new listeners. You can join my Patreon at patreon.com/Roll, Ponder, and Play. There you can find show notes and transcripts, as well as other projects I'm involved in. And paid subscribers get access to subscriber-only episodes, shows, and other content. Finally, you can simply reach out to me and say hello. Comments from you are what inspire me to keep doing this, and I'd sincerely love to hear what you think of the show. To do so, you can find me on my Patreon, or on Discord at Roll, Ponder, and Play, or by email at rollponderandplay@gmail.com. Until we meet again on Roll, Ponder, and Play, may your own dice rolls ever bring you success.